Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to Sunday Forum. We've got Janet Farnes up here today. Janet, of course, is involved with the Stewards of Creation small group here at in St. Mark's. But she's going to be talking to us a little bit today about an adult education opportunity that's coming in 2024. The curriculum is called Wake Up World. And Janet, thank you so much for being here and spending your time sharing us a little bit about all this with us.
You bet. It's good to be here. It's even fun to see the snow out there.
Yeah.
So again, my name is Janet Farnes. It's on the slide. I'm a member of St. Mark's. I'm a member of your council. I'm a member of the Stewards of Creation team, and I also sit on the board of Earth Ministry Washington Interfaith Power and Light, which is a Washington nonprofit that works with many faith groups to live into their call to creation stewardship and environmental justice. Just a minute on the Stewards of Creation, our focus areas. It was formed, and we first met during the spring of the pandemic in 2020. We make plans and we adapt, because that's our secret sauce, really, isn't it? You may have observed some areas in which this team is engaged. We're engaged with the pastors to bring creation themes into our worship, into our liturgy, our prayers, and our worship space. We're collaborating with the entire community to practice more thoughtful stewardship. For example, compostable coffee cups, which should go into those nice compostable coffee bins. And those washable communion glassware, that's part of our team too. We're engaging with outreach to the community by growing healthy food for hungry people in our garden boxes out here, and that healthy food goes to our Spear families. We're working on increasing the native vegetation around our campus to support our neighborhood pollinators and reduce our water needs. Last spring, I know some of you were involved in our intergenerational Earth Day event to have fun while we learn and experience various creation themes. Our petrified guy was there with all his cool petrified stones and everything. This past June, we blessed our gardens and enjoyed a 4-week season of creation in our liturgy. And the last thing I want to mention is recently we hosted a vigil for the earth in our community, lamenting the approval of a more highly pressurized and therefore more dangerous fracked gas line flowing through our community. So these are the many dimensions that this team is working in. And I just wanted to share a little bit of that because we haven't, been so public with you all. We've just been working behind the scenes, but anybody is welcome to join this team, and your ideas are very welcome. But today we wanted to talk about an education opportunity that's come our way. And we're inviting you to participate in this learning study where we can learn together in community. We learned about the authors of this, and Edwin and I had coffee with them a few months ago. And I've learned since that a number of local faith groups are going to be working with this curriculum this winter. So it's kind of something that's percolating in multi-faith groups throughout Spokane. I think as we prepare for the 50th anniversary of our expo, whose theme was all on the environment. So a lot of little things are percolating. And the name of the curriculum is Wake Up World, Hope Through Understanding. And I'm going to let the authors talk to you themselves and introduce the curriculum. This is a couple that lives right here in Spokane. Following their grandchildren, we understand that.
Janet, can you reload the page? Sometimes when it rests, it just needs to be reloaded. So exit full screen mode.
Okay.
And then can you refresh the website? This little,
My
let me try.
technical assistant to see what I can do. It's the first of the videos. This is the book that Anita and Bob have put together, and it's also, there's a complete website that has all the content.
Hello, welcome
Sorry.
to our website, www.wakeupworld.earth. I'm Dr. Bob Gerhart, a retired United Methodist minister living in Spokane, Washington.
And I'm Anita Daggert Gerhart, a retired clinical social worker.
In January 2020, we began a journey to learn about the warming climate.
After 2 years of courses, books, podcasts, documentaries, and discussions has come a curriculum, Wake Up World.
A curriculum to help people like ourselves, who are not climate scientists, gain a basic understanding of what we have come to know as the climate crisis.
When you study this curriculum, you will learn through short videos from scientists and activists such as Katharine Hayhoe, Greta Thunberg, John Foley, and many others.
By an investment of a few hours of your time and attention, you can gain a basic understanding of the science, justice, faith, and/or community issues of the climate crisis,
along with what can be done by individuals, governments, corporations, technology, and others to work together to save the earth and her inhabitants.
We hope you will join us in finding hope for humanity through understanding.
The course is free to all to study, facilitate for others, and share through this website. Just click the link below and get started today.
So the cool thing is, if you don't want to do it in this context with all of us, you can do it on your own, or you can self-lead. It's a beautiful curriculum that's been set up. There's a sign up going on. Some of you may not be ready to sign up yet, and I understand. That's why we're here today, is to understand. But I think it was good to understand the origin of this idea. So what is our plan? It's a 6-week study. We're planning to meet at 10 a.m. for 2 hours on Saturdays, either by Zoom or in person. That's yet to be decided. We have the dates, 3 Saturdays in a row in January, then a 2-week break, and then 3 Saturdays in a row. So if you haven't made your plans to be out of town, that you can now see when you should go. Whoops. Now, why would we do this? Why would faith communities do this? And really, what is this study about? So, it's interesting. I showed this slide, 1973 statement of the ELCA, and Randy was quick to correct me, saying the ELCA didn't exist in 1973. So, this statement is now posted on the ELC website, but he's right. There was a precursor. I don't know if it was the AELCA or if it was the ELCA or whatever we were before we were ELCA. Just my point of making the date was to let you know how many decades long our thoughts about creation have been percolating throughout the organization of our church, and also grassroots. But I thought it was important. I'm sorry the text is so small. I'll read this to you. The statement, and this is in bold because there is a statement on the ELCA website, Caring for Creation, Vision, Hope, and Justice, establishes the ELCA's teachings on ecology and the environment, grounded in a biblical vision of God's intention for the healing and wholeness of creation. It speaks of human beings as part of God's creation and of the human responsibility as servants of all God has made. It provides a framework of hope rooted in God's faithfulness for understanding this human role in creation, the problem of sin, and the current environmental crisis. Again, thinking that this was authored back in the 70s. Caring for Creation expresses a call to pursue justice for creation through active participation, solidarity, sufficiency, and sustainability, and states the commitments of the ELCA for pursuing wholeness for creation. Commitments expressed through individual and community action, worship, learning, that's what we're talking about this morning, moral deliberation, and advocacy. So why choose faith communities? When our authors were thinking about this curriculum, they said, well, the church or faith organizations are established in community and they can talk together about tough issues, and that's really important. And education is often a part of this faith life as it is for us. Many times this fall, I was thinking back to things I've learned so much this fall. I've learned about dementia and hospice and composting and the Salish School, so many things I have learned here at our Sunday Forum. There's an organizational structure in place in faith communities, and many faiths accept responsibility for care of creation. So this seems like a good way to bring some content into our community. And what we wanted to do this morning is sample how this curriculum is delivered, what the learning style is. It's going to include some workbook or online reading. There'll be videos, there'll be discussion questions, and the goal is really an interactive and safe place to learn together. So we're gonna have another video, and let's hope this works without any glitches here. Just to give you a sense of the type of content, which will come from many directions.
Handing down a ruling that makes our colleague Robert Krulwich's look at our world's engine trouble even more timely.
Humans, we all know, have been burning wood for a very long time. To cook things, to light things, and to make things. But then it was around 250 years ago, some clever people invented the modern engine using coal, oil, natural gas, and very quickly, engines replaced animals, engines replaced sails, engines helped light cities, engines gave us factories and highways and traffic jams, and every time we burn coal or oil or natural gas in these engines, carbon dioxide molecules escape into the air and hang there. Now you can't see this, not without a microscope, but if you were to look up at a little clump of air, I mean really, really little, just only 1 million molecules of oxygen and nitrogen, whatever's in the air, these days you would find 412 CO2 molecules zinging about in here, 412. 250 years ago, there'd have been far fewer, only 280. 1,000 years ago, it would have been again 280. 10,000 years ago, once again, 280. For most of human history, 280 was the number, and the change when it came suddenly and not surprisingly right here around the 1760s, the dawn of the age of engines. That's the moment when levels turn up and up and up because carbon engines spread so quickly, first across Europe and America and Japan, and for centuries richer nations were by far the biggest users. But very recently, people who had been poor, especially in China and in India, they're catching up. Now they can afford more good stuff, and because there are so many people in those places, every little economic improvement has had an enormous compounding effect. So the CO2 count has zipped up to 412 and it's still rising. And that is not good. Because remember, CO2 is a greenhouse gas. Each one of these molecules can trap a little bit of heat, like up here, hold that heat in place for hundreds, even thousands of years. So the more molecules there are up there, the more heat gets trapped and the warmer our planet gets. We know our planet is getting warmer. The real question now is how warm will it get? And one way to find that out is to go backwards in time to see what it was like the last time the Earth had CO2 levels in the 400s. So here is a history of CO2 levels going way, way back. This is going to be like, this is 200,000 years back. And if you look at this, at no point did CO2 levels ever reach 400. It's not even close. Okay, so let's double it. Let's go back 400,000 years. Again, it's nothing. Okay, 800,000 years, same thing. We would have to go, hello, you ready for this? We would have to go 2.5 million years back in time to find the point when CO2 levels were as high as they are today. 2.5 million years ago is what we call the Pliocene. And in that era, the Earth was, we know, about 3 or 4 degrees warmer than the Earth today. There were small forests, not too far from the South Pole. There were hardly any glaciers. And the oceans swelled. Sea levels rose and rose and rose until they were about 55 feet higher than they are today. 55 feet. Back in the Pliocene, climate changes came slowly, sometimes taking thousands of years, and creatures had time to adjust. But now, changes are so sudden and so drastic, with so many engines still burning carbon to make, well, whatever, stoves, refrigerators, toilets, washers, dryers, cars, new things, cool things, better things. All those engines cut down the time we have left to adjust, and bring us closer and closer to irreversible tipping points, where we no longer have the power to slow things down, where we can't control what's happening. There are regions on Earth, vast and important, like the Amazon rainforests, the Siberian tundra, the ice fields of Greenland, that are getting increasingly unstable as it gets warmer. The ice in Greenland has been melting so fast that on a single hot July day, the melt was big enough to cover the entire state of Florida in 2 inches of water, which is not good, but it's still reversible. If we quickly cut down emissions now, scientists say that we can slow the melt way, way down. We can give ourselves a few hundred years, maybe even a few thousand years. Yeah, 1,000 years to cope and adjust. But if we keep letting things get warmer, at some point, and we don't know when, which is a big problem, Greenland ice will hit a physical tipping point, and the glaciers will collapse in on themselves automatically. No way to stop them, no way to slow them down. Even if carbon emissions go to 0, the process would still be irreversible, and oceans all over the world would swell and swell and swell. And there are now signs, says a new study, that this might happen even in this century. Because the more carbon engines there are, the less time we have to protect ourselves from runaway global warming. Engines really aren't our problem. We like engines. We need them. We use them. They make life so much easier. It's the carbon that powers those engines. That's the challenge. Keep the engines, lose the carbon. And that way, maybe we can slow the changes down that are coming our way, and try to keep the natural world more like it was, well, when you were young. And if we're lucky, the way it might stay, at least for a while, even for you.
So, that was a 6-minute long video, and it's a way that we'll learn things. I'm wondering, what stood out for you in that video, if anything surprised you that you saw?
And 55 feet of ocean rise.
Interesting that the world was that hot 2.5 million years ago, and what caused that?
Wonderings are good. Curiosity is really good. That's what this is about, is to explore our questions and feel confident in asking them. Anything seem important in what you just heard? I mean, it stood out as like, this is important. This would be fun to chat with people about. I see some nodding. Anybody want to?
It's definitely important, but very briefly you should. The Supreme Court ruling, it disappeared already. But yes, it's important, and yes, I worry about it, but you've got to get really active because there's government and a lot of people don't want to hear it, don't believe it, deny it. And then there are some people that probably believe it, but you know, they'd lose money on it, so they're not gonna pay any attention. So it's, I don't want it to be a losing battle, but it sure seems like it's a battle.
This is just an example of when we view something, we'll share our points of view. We don't really engage in crosstalk. No one's trying to persuade anybody of anything. Your observations, we learn from each other. And then we become more attuned to and more understanding of information that we might read in various news sources or books or from each other. So it just makes it more comfortable to have tough questions, things that might seem hopeless, where we want to get to hope. We want to understand what we can do that doesn't involve maybe moving a government that is really, we don't see where's the first step in moving a government or moving people. Fred?
Now, the tipping point notion motivates more research. If you hear the word tipping point in the century, then you want to know more. So I thought that was a very good point.
Yeah. So, what are our intended outcomes? Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
But first, Janet, thank you for this ministry that you do. As I was watching, I wondered, has any evaluation, all the talk around artificial intelligence, has getting proactive and ahead of that, has there been any evaluation what impact that could have on this issue?
Another great question. That probably has no single answer at this point, but maybe your antenna will be up now for articles about that particular angle. You know, we come into a tipping point, come into it, when was the last time we come into it, what impact might AI have? So I think this is great. We're all going to be stimulated in different ways that we then can bring back to each other in the course of our learning that can help us, you know, kind of peel that onion and further understand what we're in. But the point is a willingness to talk about it and not have it be just a big fear, a boogeyman under the bed we're never going to look at. So thanks for all those observations, Barb, to yours too, like, what do we do? So big. So here's what we hope are outcomes for this. That we'll finish this time together with a basic understanding of what the majority of climate scientists today believe is happening in our ecosystem. So we'll have some bedrock, we'll understand what's going on. We'll be able to better understand and critically evaluate what is heard and seen. You know, there's many articles. I've been noticing on the Spokesman Review, we get the print copy a couple of times a week that you turn to page 2 on the bottom left, it's about climate now. It usually comes from the Washington Post or a newsroom that is doing investigative work, you know, an authoritative source. But I've noticed that it's trying to keep us surprised, but we'll be able to evaluate what we read. I want to be able to see how the breadth of concern also provides breadth of opportunity for action in our everyday lives and decisions. So what trickles down to motivate me to make some adjustments and kind of help my peripheral vision. I'm hearing about so much easier to detect methane now, if we can cap a lot of the methane, you know, but I wasn't attuned to that till I started engaging in this topic. And though initially we may feel fear or despair, which is sometimes why we don't address topics because, it's the big boogeyman. We will be moved to take actions that will lead to a sense of agency. There's something that we can do and a sense of hope. And then we'll begin to become comfortable talking about the climate crisis with others. It's something important to talk about. And especially our youth. Many of us have children, grandchildren, young friends who are, this is a source of anxiety in their lives. And so we need to have some expertise so that we can talk with them, not to preach to them or tell them, but to engage in mutual learning on these topics, to understand where they're coming from and how we can be better listeners and engagers. But we don't want to be in this situation of saying, well, I don't know anything about that. That wouldn't be fulfilling our responsibility as mentors of the next generation. So I wanted to do this is a short video. These are both about The one that we just saw was 6 minutes. It may have seemed really, really longer because it was all kind of news we didn't necessarily want to hear. But this one is Katharine Hayhoe. I don't know if anybody's familiar with her. Dr. Hayhoe, she's an atmospheric scientist. She's the chief scientist for the Nature Conservancy. She's an evangelical Christian. We find allies in unexpected places, and this is what we need to be. We want to look for allies. She's the daughter of missionaries, and so I'm going to share her 6-minute video here.
It is also a question of right and wrong. And for more than 80% of us around the world, we often get our sense of what is right and wrong from our faith. That's why leaders from across the entire spectrum have issued statements on climate change and on the importance of caring for creation and for other people on this planet. Informed by our science, it's our hearts that tell us we must act. I'm a scientist, and as a scientist, I can tell you science is awesome, but it can't do everything. When it comes to climate change, here's what science can tell us: that climate is changing. Science can also tell us that for the first time in history, humans, not natural cycles, not the sun, are the main cause of this change. Science can also tell us that the choices we make going forward will shape our climate future. If we continue to depend on old, dirty, polluting fossil fuels for most of our energy, we're going to be following a much higher and faster pathway to change. On the other hand, if we can transition in a sensible, sustainable way to clean sources of renewable energy that don't produce heat-trapping gases and other pollution, we're going to be heading much more slowly towards a safer future that will be easier to prepare for. Science can tell us what's likely to happen to our food, our water resources, our health, even our economy, depending on how much fossil fuels we burn. But this is where the science stops. Science can't tell us what's the right thing to do. Should we put a price on carbon? Or should we cap emissions and allow polluters to trade? If so, how much and how fast? Should we shut down the fossil fuel industry or encourage it to transition as well? Invest in new technology or help poor countries to adapt? Ideally, all of the above, but practically we can't do it all. We have some tough choices to make. And for that, we need to engage our hearts. And for many of us here in North America and around the world, what's in our hearts has a lot to do with our faith. Faith and science are not in competition. They are not two alternate and mutually exclusive systems of belief. As one atheist put it, scientists do not join hands every Sunday and sing, "Yes, gravity is real, I will have faith." In the same way, sacred texts like the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, they're not science textbooks. These books are intended to serve as guides, giving us a perspective on where we came from, where we're going, and how to live our lives here and now. That's why we need our science and our values when it comes to difficult, thorny issues like climate change. Speaking for myself, I'm a Christian, and I believe that as a Christian, I'm called to help people who are suffering. Who's most vulnerable to the impacts of a changing climate? The poor, the world over. From the single mother in McAllen, Texas, who can't afford to keep her family's apartment cool as the summers get hotter, to an elderly fisherman in the Maldives, who will soon have to find a new place to live as sea level rises, to the Syrian family in the refugee camp, their land and their home long gone, desperate to just find a safe place to live. But here's the good news: when it comes to climate change, the desire to care for and help others is not exclusive to any one denomination or religion or even faith. Atheists, agnostics, and humanists share these values too. How do I know? Because when it comes to making statements about climate change, it's not just the Pope. Nearly every major Christian denomination and world religion has something to say about it. From the Episcopal Church, they say, "We are painfully aware that those of us living in the Northern Hemisphere are responsible for the majority of climate change. Accordingly, we hold a particular responsibility for the changes that will reverse the trajectory of atmospheric warming and safeguard the sanctity of what our God calls very good." From the other side of the world, here's part of the Hindu Declaration of Climate Change. We must consider the effect of our actions, not just on ourselves and those humans around us, but on all beings. We have a dharmic duty for each of us to do our part. in ensuring that we have a functioning, abundant, and bountiful planet. There's even an Islamic declaration on global climate change. Our species, though selected to be a caretaker or steward of the Earth, has been the cause of such corruption and devastation on it that we are in danger of ending life as we know it on our planet. This current rate of climate change cannot be sustained, and the Earth's fine equilibrium may soon be lost. Faith and science, data and sacred texts. On climate change, they're painting the same picture. Unless we've signed up for that trip to Mars, this is the only planet we have. It just makes sense to care for it, and to care for our brothers and sisters who share it with us, particularly those who are less fortunate than us, and who are already suffering the impacts of a warming world. I truly believe that just about every single one of us, no matter our religious background or lack thereof, we have all the values we need to care about climate change built into us. Every human on this planet is born with a sense of responsibility, appreciation for our world, and often an instinct to care for others too. And that's exactly what we need to make good choices and to inform our actions on climate change today. As scientist Jane Goodall says, it's only when our clever brain and our human heart work together in harmony that we can achieve our true potential. Thank you for watching Global Weirding. Be sure to go to Global Weirding series.
Global Weirding, yes. She has many videos out and is just a great thinker and leader. So, same question. Yes.
Are all the videos that you have shown, do they have the ability to be captioned? I have to have captioning. That was wonderful. Do they all have that ability?
I think the majority do. I haven't even watched everyone, but yes. The first one was not captioned?
No.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't see.
Yeah, okay.
This one I thought automatically.
Oh, I'm good.
popped
Okay,
up.
so let me, I don't know the answer to
Thank you.
that, but that's great, but.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, you bet. Tom?
I love her quote, "What's in our heart has a lot to do with our faith." And clearly she's talking about the connection between the brain and the heart on this issue.
Yep. Yes.
It's extremely refreshing to hear someone say that we should not rely on the science or the scientists to come to decisions, because I think there's an exceptional amount of trust placed on them, but the science is not it's not designed to create decisions.
Yeah.
She didn't say it, but I think she's implying a values-based decision-making process. As a former scientist, I speak.
Great observation. Anybody else had a thought about something surprised you or felt important or? Yeah.
I was reminded of a thought that I've heard by us elderly ones that, well, it'll all happen when we're gone. And that way you can dismiss it, which is bad, because then you're not doing what you should be doing to learn more in everything you're about.
Thanks. Great. Just a little bit of, spend a little time, think about it, how's it hit you, and then know that we all have insights that we share with others. I appreciate your insight about the importance of closed captioning to be accessible to everybody. On the sheet that some of you have on your, and I have extras, this just gives you a more, anybody need one or you have access to one? This gives you a little bit more in depth about the various modules. And again, they're all either written out or online or both. But it'll tell you that class 1 is faith communities, justice and climate crisis. So like we're gonna get straight on vocabulary and biblical, we just wanna have bedrock and build every week. And where are we now in class 2 and how did we get here? So we will feel smarter. There are some folks I understand who are offering college credit, community college credit for taking this class. And we are doing it in kind of a, more than values, really faith. But it is available to do with communities without the faith aspect, because people are can be humanists and atheists and want to participate in the greater good. Class 3, the climate crisis in our daily lives. This will help us understand a little bit more about how our daily lives impact the impacts of the climate crisis on creation. So looking again a little bit more broadly in class 4, what happens to all our sisters and brothers and the rest of the created world. Class 5, who is going to save us? Okay, oh, is science going to save us? Well, who's going to save us? And so we talk about a lot of people who are going to have a role, a lot of entities that will have a role in this and what our part is. Class 6, what can I do? Again, finding hope and moving to action. We're already in a little bit of a mitigation and adaptation phase, all of us who have spent smoky summers here, and some on the west side of our community, a little bit more than smoke, there was fire that they had to deal with. So, we're going to be learning how to exercise our adaptation skills and how to help our community do that too. So you can see by the substantive nature why this would take some time. There might be a little pre-work, so you can look at the video and think about it. You can read the material and think about it, so you're a little bit more ready to dive into a discussion, although it's not necessary. You don't have to look at things in advance, or you might review them after we talk about them. And so the idea is, and we're totally open if anybody wants to co-facilitate, help to lead these classes, that there certainly is a role for you if that's something that you like doing, and it is not at all a requirement that someone be part of the St. Mark's community. You may have a friend that you have had questions about this with and are kind of chewing on this or not, or this might be an interest of them. They're very welcome to participate in this study. So this could be an opportunity to include somebody you wanted to get into something with. That would be a fun thing to learn together. So without committing right now, just as a straw vote, how many of you think you might be interested in doing this? Okay, that's awesome. Now, to further it, how many of you, as far as Zoom or in person, how many of you would like to do it in person? Okay. And Zoom only? Okay. Maybe. Okay. So, that's a little bit the sheet that's going around. It says Zoom or in person. If you don't care, you can check either or whatever. I think in person would be awesome. It is winter. The Saturdays are set out, and so, whatever. We'll just have to chew on that a little bit. And then any other kind of questions or thoughts just as we end our time together? Right.
I'm wondering how we could get this message to the rest of the congregation who couldn't be here, because this is so valuable and you put so much effort into it. I don't know how to do it, insert or how we reach the others.
That's great. We can continue to amplify. We're going to start on January 13th, but it's just about a month away, so it does make sense to publicize a little bit. We are recording this, so when it is released, you can send the link to other people that you might think would be interested. But I think the most compelling way someone might come is if one of us says, I was here and I think this might be something very interesting to do together. So yes, and mass communication and directed
And the recording,
communication.
that's very
And the recording
And we
is gonna
got
be
used
here.
to that with virtual.
Yeah, you bet. Mary?
Would it be a problem to come to some and not all of them, and then watch some of them online, or, you know what I mean? Because I have some Saturdays that are already,
Great question.
Committed.
I think the group can maybe decide on that. I don't necessarily have an issue with that because everything is here or online. So it's not necessarily that there would be content you'd necessarily miss. You would miss the conversation and the bonding and the camaraderie, but it would be a compromise, certainly. How do others feel? Would that be acceptable to miss some? And I don't see anybody going, no, we can't do that.
I think some are interested. We just might have our own, we're so involved in our own that we don't, and so it's how can we support what those of you that are so dedicated, like what Fred says, how can we help with that communication?
Sure, and I think one of the goals of the Stewards of Creation team was maybe folks don't necessarily want to be on that team, but they want to be learning, and so this is a way to learn And if you know somebody, maybe you can't come. I know Pastor Nelson said this morning that this time frame doesn't work for him. And I said, well, Pastor Nelson, you know way more people in this congregation than I do. Maybe you have some people in mind that you know this topic might resonate. And you're still welcome to invite, whether or not you can actually come. But, so I think it would be, you know, if we had 12 people, why does that number sound like a great number? That would be awesome, but we could accommodate more. We would go even if there were less. But it would be quite a learning experience for any of us that decide to do this. It was fun to meet Anita and Bob. They're the most humble people, but my word, have they worked on a terrific curriculum. They are so thoughtful, and you know, I've worked in the publishing industry and I couldn't even find a typo in this. I mean, that's how meticulous they are in research and everything, so. Anyway, thanks so much for coming and being curious, and the sign up went around, but if you didn't get a chance to sign up, you're still thinking about it, you can always email me. And if we were to meet in person, we would probably meet here at St. Mark's. I think that would be the simplest. Thanks so much.
How is the book available?
Oh, okay. So for those that sign up, we'll definitely get the book for you, but it's also available right now on Amazon. It's $6.50. It's just the price of printing, basically. And you can go to the website, wakeupworld.earth, and you can jump right into the curriculum. It's all very transparent. And so the thing we'll do together is to kind of sit with this together and learn from each other and struggle with each other and have insights and ahas with each other. So, but yeah, everything is available, and they have, this was, I was really admired that they decided we're in lockdown, as we all were, and this is the project that they felt called to do. And what's fun is that other faith communities in Spokane are doing this as well at this time. And let me tell you something else. We hope that we'll be done with this. It's kind of a Lenten thing too, isn't it? It's almost a Lenten discipline to take this class during this time, and there's a lot of lament, you know. But on the other side of it, there's going to be a big tree planting that is happening as a legacy project that has been funded in the city of Spokane, and the tree planting will take place in some of our underserved neighborhoods in order to advance the canopy and the benefits that more canopy has for reducing temperatures. So we hope that those of us who want to, you know, do something to benefit the community might be motivated too to be part of that tree planting. And again, no need to take the class to do the tree planting. We'll talk more about that when we get the dates. It'll probably be like the first week of May or something like this. The Lands Council and other groups are organizing this, so it's going to be a Spokane-wide tree planting to commemorate this 50 years since our expo, and you know, got some environmental justice aspect to it, because there's a lot of concrete in some of our neighborhoods where there should be trees. Yeah.
Jen, can you share some other faith communities that are doing it? I know it's a wide variety.
Right, I don't have that list in front of my brain right now. I think there's a Jewish community doing it. I think a Buddhist community was considering it. And that's another thing. Would it be okay if some other members of our community wanted to join our group? Anybody have a problem with that? I think that'd be awesome. So, you know, if there's a group that doesn't, you know, wants to join with us and co-facilitate or whatever, so we like this approach from our faith and values, as you said, to, you know, ponder these things and learn more. So, thanks again. Thanks for being here this morning and being curious.